Take a look at this scene from the Season 2 Breaking Bad episode Peekaboo. What does it reveal about Jesse Pinkman? Jesse notices a beetle on the ground. He squats down and examines it, fascinated. He sees his friend approaching and stands up hurriedly.
Yo.
Skinny Pete walks up and crushes the beetle. Jesse looks down, a little sad, but doesn't say anything. This scene, without dialogue, and in just a few seconds, reveals the core of Jesse's character. Jesse is someone who looks at the world with childlike wonder. He's full of sympathy for the weakest, but he lives in a world that crushes the weak. So Jesse's story is about a loss of innocence. And like most things Breaking Bad, his transformation works both on a realistic level and on a heightened symbolic one. It can even be read as a dark version of the story of Christ. Jesse is an innocent in a world that punishes his virtue at every turn. And he suffers for the sins of his spiritual father/God, Walt. So let's look at why Jesse Pinkman lived for your sins. Before we go on, we want to tell you about this video's sponsor, Audible. Audible is the best audiobook service out there, with an unbelievable collection of audiobooks just waiting for you to download them and listen. Right now, you can get any book of your choice for free, and 30 days of an Audible membership for free. Just use our link, audible.com/screenprism, or text the code SCREENPRISM to 500-500. So go check it out. Jesse is nothing if not an overgrown kid at heart. With the Cap'n Cook license plates and ridiculous swagger,
cheddar, Mr. White, fat stacks, dead presidents, cash money.
He's like a high schooler pretending to be a drug dealer. The oversized clothes make him look like a kid in hand-me-downs. Yes, we do meet Jesse jumping out of a woman's bedroom mid-tryst, but he's got a kid's innate humor and silliness.
Hey, since when did they change it to opossum? What's up with that? I mean, when I was coming up, it was just possum. You know, opossum makes it sound like he's Irish or something. I mean, why do they gotta go changing everything? I mean, whatever.
Because he's a big kid himself, Jesse has a special affinity with children throughout the series. In Peekaboo, when he's looking for the meth heads who robbed Skinny Pete, he finds their neglected child.
Where's your folks? They're here.
Jesse plays with the kid and tries to protect him.
Just don't go back inside, all right? You stay right here, okay?
He has a close bond with his little brother Jake, and he doesn't resent his brother for being the favorite son. And it's the murder of the unsuspecting kid in Heist that drives Jesse to try and break all ties with Walt's operation. Jesse feels connected to kids because in the world of Breaking Bad, it seems like, apart from Jesse, children are the only ones who can be innocent. Jesse's relationship with Jane starts like a sweet teen romance. They show each other their sketches and hold hands. But pretty soon they're doing heroin and blackmailing Walt. So very quickly, the innocence of their relationship has been lost. This arc of Jesse finding something good and then losing it and losing faith in the world and himself is repeated over and over in the show. Jesse may want to protect children from harm, but he's the one who needs protection. He's essentially an abandoned kid.
Hey, Dad. Hey, Mom.
His parents think he's a hopeless screw-up and want nothing to do with him. Jesse needs someone to tell him what to do. And so he finds a parental figure in Walt.
Say it like you mean it.
I'm a blowfish!
Blowfish, that's
Yeah!
Their dynamic immediately resembles a father-son relationship.
3 entire bags of Funyuns?
Funyuns are awesome.
God.
And one for me.
How about something with some protein, maybe? Something green, huh?
Walt literally calls Jesse his son on more than one occasion.
You're good at a lot of things, son.
Look, I'm his father, all right? I can check on my son's well-being.
But son, you need to stop focusing
on the darkness behind you.
And this is especially strange because Walt not only has a very low opinion of Jesse,
Did your mother drop you on your head when you were a baby?
but also in fact has an actual son, Walter Jr. Yet somehow his relationship with Jesse feels more real and profound. Why is that? The answer is that Jesse is the first and really only person who sees Walt's talent and power close up and admires Walt for those things.
This is pure glass. This is art.
Skylar's not high-fiving anyone over a good batch of meth. And Mike and Gus aren't fond of Walt either. Unfortunately, this father-son relationship is a deeply dysfunctional one.
You are a pathetic junkie! Too stupid to understand and follow simple rudimentary instructions.
Jesse longs for appreciation, but Walt never gives it to him.
You said I was no good. I'm nothing!
And when Walt does offer Jesse a positive affirmation, it's usually to manipulate him.
Your meth is good, Jesse.
The father-son dynamic makes it all the more tragic when Walter betrays Jesse's trust.
Would you just, for once, stop working me?
It's like he's hurting his own child. For a while, Jesse finds a new surrogate family in Gus and Mike. They treat him like a child too. Gus at one point has Mike essentially babysit Jesse.
I can smoke, right?
Not a chance.
But both Gus and Mike have a more genuine respect for Jesse than Walter does.
The kid's a hero.
Possessive Walt can't stand these rivals showing interest in his Jesse. Jesse starts out with a great deal of loyalty and respect for Walt,
Yeah, Mr. White. Yes, science.
but he ends completely disillusioned with his father figure.
And over that asshole, Mr. White! He poison Brooke!
So in this sense, Jesse's arc mirrors a teen coming-of-age story, which is also often about a loss of innocence and becoming disillusioned with the parents you thought were good and all-powerful, or with the world in general. Jesse even acts out the way a teen would, by throwing massive parties, or angstily shutting everyone out. Jesse has been around longer than Walt on the drug scene, but it's clear that Walt is the natural here, while Jesse is out of place in the world of crime. He's not cut out for the survival of the fittest world of Breaking Bad. And so this world finds endless ways of punishing Jesse's moral purity. When Walt insists they connect with a bigger drug dealer and they meet with Tuco,
Mr. White, it's too risky.
Jesse ends up in the hospital. When Walt tricks Hank into thinking Marie is hurt, it's Jesse who again gets beaten to a pulp. And when Jesse isn't being beaten, he's beating himself up, often for things that aren't even his fault.
I almost shot you. I'm so sorry.
He's consumed with guilt over the deaths of Combo, Jane, and Tomas, and over Brock ending up in the hospital.
Good. Just take it. Take it.
Walt is a master at convincing himself that his actions are morally necessary.
No matter how it may look, I only had you in my heart.
But Jesse's the opposite. He refuses to let himself off the hook.
I'm the bad guy.
He just won't let himself stop suffering.
So no matter what I do, hooray for me because I'm a great guy. It's all good. No matter how many dogs I kill, I just do an inventory and accept.
So Jesse is punished again and again by himself because of his desire for virtue. He tries and fails multiple times to get out of the business.
I'm pretty much a self-starter, so I'm thinking there's a little misunderstanding.
Jesse passionately wants to do the right thing.
This man needs help.
This man pays my salary.
What's really sad is that Jesse suffers for sins that aren't even his. Slate's Jessica Winter made the point that Jesse suffers for Walter's sins. As she wrote, "You can judge the progress of Walter's moral corrosion at any given moment by measuring how hollowed out Jesse was, how pulped and zombified." Walt somehow has a hand in most of Jesse's pain, both directly
It's gonna have to be you.
and through chain reactions of destruction. Look at the situation with Jane. Walt pushes to expand their meth-selling business,
It's not our territory.
which results in Jesse's friend Combo getting killed over turf. Jesse blames himself for Combo's death and turns to drugs, causing Jane to start doing drugs again and introduce Jesse to heroin. The innocent romance they had is gone. Then Walt shakes Jesse, causing Jane to roll over on her back and start choking, and Walt chooses to stand by while she dies. Every time Jesse experiences tragedy, does something terrible, or blames himself for something, Walt is directly or indirectly behind it.
Everything I have ever cared about is gone. Ruined, turned to shit, dead ever since I hooked up with the great Heisenberg.
So after all these ways that Walt punishes and abuses Jesse, the question that many people ask after the series finale is, why does Walter save him in the end? This is the mystery at the heart of the ending. Just as the strength of their connection is a mystery throughout the show, the dark interpretation of the end is that by choosing to let Jesse live at a point where Jesse has lost everything he has to live for, Walt once again asserts his dominance over the boy. But on the lighter side, he may be driven to protect Jesse because of a last faint parental instinct. In the beginning, Walt needs Jesse to boost Heisenberg's ego, but his reasons for needing Jesse evolve. By the end of the show, Heisenberg is a legend and he doesn't need ego boosting anymore, but he seems to want Jesse around for something else. Jesse is Walt's true son, and it would actually be better to say that he is Heisenberg's son. And as his life comes to an end in the final episodes, Heisenberg is concerned with his legacy. So he needs Jesse because Jesse's the one who's known Heisenberg the best from the beginning. The one who truly carries on the memory of who his spiritual father was. Thus, we can see a selfish aspect to the final act of saving Jesse so that Heisenberg can still live on in Jesse's mind, but we can also see that Heisenberg has always somehow loved this kid, for reasons that neither of them ever truly understand. So Jesse is taking upon himself the sins of others, bearing the marks on his body and soul, and thanks to all this suffering, Jesse can be seen as a Jesus figure. Jesse isn't quite the image of obvious virtue you'd associate with Christ. But that makes sense because of the world we're situated in. If Jesse is Jesus and Heisenberg is his father, that makes Heisenberg God the Father. But he's a bad god of a very twisted, corrupt world. So what we're seeing is Jesus if he weren't the Son of God, but of a devil instead.
Mr. White, he's the devil. You know, he is smarter than you. He is luckier than you. Whatever you think's supposed to happen, I'm telling you, the exact reverse opposite of that is gonna happen, okay?
Jesse.
And since Jesse is a devil's Jesus, that's why he's not really suffering for the sins of all mankind, but for the sins of his father in particular.
I watched her overdose and choke to death. I could have saved her. But I didn't.
We get a few hints at this Jesus connection in the show. Jesus was a carpenter, and Jesse mentions that he would like to be a woodworker because he enjoyed the craft in high school.
I built it out of Peruvian walnut with inlaid zebra wood. It was fitted with pegs, no screws. I sanded it for days until it was smooth as glass.
Later, when Jesse is locked in the lab of Uncle Jack's gang, he fantasizes about building another box. The scene is shot luminously and feels even more clearly like a Christian association. The time Jesse spends in captivity could be a parallel to the time between Jesus' death and resurrection. After Jesse witnesses Todd killing Andrea, he's locked in a pit, which could be interpreted as corresponding to the cave Jesus' body was kept in after the crucifixion. Jesse's hair and beard are longer than they've ever been in the series, also bringing to mind a biblical martyr. And then the resurrection comes, when Walt sets Jesse free from captivity. But Jesse's final escape is a dark resurrection. He's not returning to heaven, he's returning to a bad earth from an even worse hell, and there's no foreseeable end to his suffering. So what's the deeper meaning of all this? Why have this symbolic dark Jesus story woven in here at all? Jesse, as this pure innocence abused and beaten up throughout the story, illuminates the darkness at the core of the Breaking Bad world. Evil actions may be punished here, but good intentions and the desire to be virtuous are answered far more severely. Jesse brings to mind the maxim, no good deed goes unpunished. He's a reminder that trying to be good doesn't mean that good things will happen to you in return. In fact, in Breaking Bad, virtue is a clear disadvantage. So if we want to hold on to our moral goodness, we have to do so regardless of the outcome. We have to be prepared to suffer for it, and for it to go completely unacknowledged and unappreciated. In spite of everything he experiences, Jesse never goes Walt's utilitarian way of weighing the value of not hurting other people against the value of some greater good or power he desires. In spite of everything, Jesse keeps the faith in what he believes to be good, not hurting others, protecting children, and treating people equally. And he holds himself accountable. So, if we're ever in doubt, we can always ask ourselves, what would Jesse do?
You have a good rest of your life, kid.
This video was brought to you by Audible. Have you ever thought about founding your own startup like Walt and Jesse, but one that's, legal? If you're a self-starter like Jesse Pinkman, check out all of the amazing audiobooks on Audible that can teach you about entrepreneurship, finance, self-care, and how to be a better you. One book we just listened to on Audible and absolutely loved is called Originals: How Nonconformists Move the World. This book was personally recommended by Facebook COO Sheryl Sandberg, and if you're an aspiring creative or entrepreneur, you'll find this book incredibly eye-opening and helpful. So right now, if you use our offer code, you can get Originals: How Nonconformists Move the World for free. And that book is yours to keep forever, whether you become an Audible member or not. Plus, you'll get 30 days of Audible membership with our code completely free. So go to audible.com/screenprism or text SCREENPRISM to 500-500. Go try it out. And if you do listen to Originals, let us know what you think of the book in the comments.